Good evening. The author and narrator would like to advise you of the following trigger warnings in this program. Graphic violence, guns and weapons, gore, mutilation, profanity.
Yeah, boy! Eat the rich!
For
Eat the
heaven's
rich!
sake, let it go!
No,
Give it back!
I-
Now! Damn you!
Fine, screw you!
With the formalities disposed of, we happily invite you to listen at your leisure. This is Chaosmas by Nikolai Whimsical. Read for you by Adam Watson. Otto von Incineratus loved his armory stench in the morning. There was nothing like waking up to the smell of clean, oiled birch switches, miniguns lubricated with sharp, sweet synthetic oil, or the nose-hair-burning notes of napalm. He inhaled all these lovely aromas until a tapping came at his balcony door.
Murder time!
An enormous raven cawed from behind bulletproof panes. Groggily, Otto grabbed a remote from his nightstand and clicked the automatic door opener. Frigid winter wind rushed in, fully waking him.
Murder time?
It asked. Its words echoed off the concrete walls and steel shelves. Gravemaker, you know how this works. Santa and Krampus need to pick who we murder, then it's murder time. Otto lectured, then tossed his covers up. Gravemaker clacked his beak in answer before preening his jet-black plumage. Otto rubbed away eye crud and checked his front door security camera. There was nothing on his doormat. It was barely 8 a.m. on Christmas, so it wasn't surprising that the Magic Man and Corporal Demon were still debating on this year's target.
Google is free.
Gravemaker chimed in, then resumed preening. Otto glared at the dire raven perched on his balcony railing. And also not my boss, he groused, stopping by the kitchen to pour himself a giant mug, half cocoa, half high-caffeine coffee, and sipped. Sugary, energetic clarity perked up his pointed ears. On the bright side, he had plenty of time to assemble a delightful death-dealing delivery. He grabbed his arsenal sack off a coat hook and started in the high explosives aisle. 5 magazines of grenades and a multi-barrel launcher. Each of its cylinders had a mission year and hash marks carved into it. Throwing them into the sack sent a small puff of silver sparkles into the air. Otto blew it away from his mocha, grumbling at Santa's obsession with magical, bedazzling effects. Next was the C4. Other goblins preferred dynamite, but you couldn't scope sticks into treasured mementos only for it to blow up in the target's face. Otto sipped and smiled at the memories of screams drowning in explosions. His last target had smuggled white phosphorus to help an oppressive regime conduct population control. Otto had made a perfect replica of the man's class ring and waited for him to jerk off before doing his own version of population control. He threw 3 pounds of the plastic explosive, cut into 1-pound logs, into the sack. Next was the medieval melee aisle. 1 misericord dagger for making a red Christmas redder. 1 of Krampus' trademark switches to make his targets twinge and twitch. Spiked boots polished with paralytic poisons. His favorite machete. And then a knocking came at his door. Otto stopped stuffing his sack with death and sniffed. Crisp peppermint, mixed with bitter brimstone, told him it was time. He set aside the arsenal sack and raced to his door. Wrenching it open, he found a manila folder emblazoned with a divided snowflake. 1 half brilliant silver with hues of blue. The other was shiny obsidian tinged with red. Opening the folder immediately turned his merry, murdering mood darker than a moonless night. Richard Averrossi, CEO. Cancer charity embezzler, serial blackmailer. Sarah Averrossi, housewife, embezzler enabler, serial cyberbully/harasser. Embezzlement agenda. Lifestyle funding, anti-healthcare lobbyists, price-fixing medication. Total attributed deaths, 25,024. The folder crinkled in Otto's clawed grip. Without realizing it, he'd marched to one of his favorite aisles in the whole armory. Huge steel letters in a cartoony font floated lazily to spell irony. A battlefield required strategy. But when you had magic, you could also throw in some style. He snapped the folder closed and started looking for something that fit the Averrossi's particular brand of evil. He walked past the Midas madness. Drowning 2 rich pieces of shit in gold was perhaps too on the nose. He made a mental note to ask Santa about turning bill collector mail into solid gold next Christmas. Just dessert was an old favorite, but turning them into cotton candy and melting them didn't fit thematically. If Otto ever had time to sit in on Krampus and Santa's meeting, he planned to mention Nestle's C-suite for that one. Santa's trash blaster had potential. Burying the Averrossis in Santa's factory garbage, just like they buried their crimes in paperwork, was close to right, but not perfect. Then he found it. A perfect blend of holiday and suffering. The caroling banshee. The Averrossis hid behind promises and legalese that ruined lives. He smiled an awful smile, imagining the screeching, twisted version of Deck the Hall shattering the Averrossis' front door. He reviewed the file as he went aisle by aisle. With his arsenal at last assembled with sufficient overkill, it was time to armor up. In 30 minutes, Otto marched out to the balcony, decked out in crimson Kevlar, lined with bulletproof ceramic plates. The afternoon sun reflected off a copper-plated reinforced combat helmet, engraved with silver horns, while green-lensed goggles protected his eyes against the snowy winds.
Murder time?
Gravemaker asked, hopping from foot to foot. Get your gothic feathers flapping. We've got a symbolic deadline and a long-ass flight ahead of us, Otto barked. The cliffside of Krampus Castle erupted in a chorus of excited caws. Thick, snowy clouds gave them the perfect coverage to circle above the Averrossis' mansion compound. Fingers of winter wind slipped beneath Otto's crimson armor. Cold mixed with excitement, goose-bumping him from neck to wrists. Relief came when he counted the last guard, confirming the number in his file. Otto leaned in to tap Gravemaker on both shoulders. His friend tucked his wings and dive-bombed without hesitation. The massive spiraling unkindness of dire ravens hot on their tail feathers.
Bogey's coming in hot,
came through the radio channel Otto had hacked.
Launch drones! Let them close in and fire at will!
A second voice rapidly ordered. The goblin leaned in closer, making fists and opening them near Gravemaker's eyes. Gravemaker let out a war caw, and the entire unkindness dropped a sun's worth of flashbangs. The few surviving drones were pinned and pecked to pieces. Shocked screams overwhelmed the guards' radios. Their winter camo was useless as they rolled around in pain. Less than 100 feet in the air, Otto drew his knife and pistol, then jumped. He landed blade-tip first into a mercenary's skull. None of his comrades noticed the wet, crunching stab or the follow-up sounds when Otto wrenched it free. Saving snark and one-liners for the Averrossis, Otto started hunting mercs. Bullet by bullet, the mansion courtyard quieted. He wiped his blade clean on his crimson pants and pulled the caroling banshee out of the sack. He waved away the ravens before aiming the silver dish at the steel doors. Then pulled the trigger. A wailing, twisted version of a classic carol slammed into the steel doors.
Burn your holes in vindication, fa la 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 la. 'Tis the season for damnation, fa la 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 la. Don I now my red apparel, fa la 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 la. Troll the ancient Yuletide peril, fa la 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 la.
Layer by layer, crack by crack, the door started breaking down. Otto turned a dial, narrowing the wailing beam at the hinges.
See my blazing bullet barrels, fa la 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 la, blowing privileged heads to pieces, fa la 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 la. Flee or scream in equal measure, fa la 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 la. I'll avenge your victims countless, fa la 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 la.
The doors crumbled at the last la. A small team of mercenaries stumbled out into the night, tears in their eyes as they dropped their weapons. The Banshee's song had called them to their rest. Otto waved for Gravemaker, thumbed down at the blood-stained snow, and pointed at the dazed mercs. The ravens dived, splattering the ground with more red. Otto turned his back on the scene, shoved the caroling banshee into the sack, then pulled out a sawed-off and his favorite machete. "Knock, knock," he announced, stepping into the foyer. A gun barrel darted from around the corner and fired randomly, hitting the floor and walls around Otto. The goblin shook his head and sighed. Pro tip, spray and pray never works.
Shut up!
A male voice cursed right before a bulky man in a gold silk bathrobe darted to the other side of the hall while spraying more bullets. A few plinked off Otto's helmet.
How's that lead taste, monster?
He taunted.
Any chance you're Dick Averossi?
Otto asked, shaking off the mild whine of tinnitus.
That's right, fucker. As soon as I know your pathetic sob story, I'm going to make sure whoever has cancer in your family gets denied for every treatment.
He monologued loud and long enough for Otto to sneak up to the wall Dick was hiding behind. The next time Richard darted, Otto stepped in to slice both Achilles' tendons.
Fuck! What the fuck?
Richard wailed as he fell, pinning his assault rifle under his body. He didn't look back, just frantically scrambled forward.
Sarah! Sarah, help!
He pleaded. A woman looked down the hall. "Hit the deck, honey!" she screamed, and whipped out a heavy machine gun. Otto took her advice, sliding to hide behind Richard. He pressed his earplugs in, but bullet ricochet wormed its way in. Then a helpful bolt of pain in the back of his leg distracted him. Otto bit his lips shut. Looking down, he could see the ceramic bulletproofing was done, but at least he wasn't leaking. The bullets finally stopped, and before the dust settled, Sarah stepped closer. "Did I get him?" she called. Otto scrambled up Richard's body, claws digging in, machete stabbing and yanking free. Richard screamed. Sarah's silhouette in the dust stumbled back. Otto grabbed the man's hair, pulled his head back, and chopped. The machete sliced through Dick's neck, letting said head flop and spurt in Otto's grip. He underhanded it in Sarah's direction. She shrieked. A burst of bullets cut through the dust, nailing Otto from chest to codpiece. He fell to his knees, rolling with the momentum till he was stuck between the headless Dick and the wall. He clawed for something in the sack to buy time, and didn't hesitate to throw the glass bottle he found. Glass shattered. Flame erupted as the Molotov's trigger went off. He tried to enjoy Sarah's panicked outrage, but his balls wouldn't stop threatening to make him puke from the pain. "You fucking fucker!" Sarah shrieked. What the fuck did my Italian marble do to you? She demanded, the sounds of a fire extinguisher hissing, flames smothering. Her ignorant, whiny tone gave Otto a flood of rage-flavored adrenaline to get up. 25,024, he shouted, which forced him to cough before he could explain. He pushed himself to the corner of the hallway, despite hacking up a lung. Gonna make me guess what that is? She shouted, then started shooting again. Otto waited for the inevitable clicking trigger, stumbled and winced his way over Richard's ass, and grabbed the sawed-off shotgun. Steadied it with his other arm to aim for Sarah's center mass. With one click, the hallway turned into a roaring echo chamber, while the metal shot ripped the walls and archway apart. Sarah Averrossi screamed in fear, ducking down. Otto ran as fast as he could. You missed, Sarah declared, jumping up to aim, only to find there was no one to shoot at. What the? She asked. Then her world went sideways, as Otto smashed an iron skillet behind her knees. On the way down, her head smacked on the countertop. By the time she reached the floor, she was a bloody, squinting mess. Otto pressed his machete to her throat and leaned in. You and your husband killed 25,024 people because the charities you embezzled from couldn't help them. People couldn't afford their meds. Laws that could have helped them were blocked. So if you're wondering why, what did I do? Just remember that number while you're bleeding out. Otto finished and sliced her ear to ear. While Sarah grasped at her throat, Otto reached into the sack and pulled out one of Mrs. Claus's cookies. He devoured the spiced shortbread. Immediately his chest and crotch ached less. Pulling out a birch switch for a cane, he limped his way through the halls. Santa would have wanted a cleanup team to scrub away the evidence. Krampus would want the footage off of Otto's goggles. Rather than radio either of them, he leaned on the basement's doorframe, reached into the sack, and pulled out a block of C4 bigger than his head. A few clicks and flicks set the timer, and he tossed it into the basement. He had plenty of time, but still limped a little faster to the front door. If his job was to send a message, let every government satellite get an eyeful. Stepping out to the courtyard, he found Gravemaker's unkindness feasting on the mercenary corpses. Gravemaker plucked and swallowed an eyeball before flapping over to Otto. I'll be okay, but we need to fly. The raven cocked its head at him before looking into the house. Should turn night into day, Otto answered the unasked question.
Santa's gonna be pissed,
Gravemaker cawed and sighed, ruffling his feathers. If he wants to make it an issue, maybe he should stop outsourcing the work, Otto shot back, grunting as he climbed into Gravemaker's saddle. Fly home, he shouted, and every raven took off. A few hundred feet in the air, he pulled out a detonator. Looking down confirmed all the ravens were clear. He pressed the switch. A fireball bloomed from the heart of the billion-dollar compound. Marble chunks, steel beam slag, burning silk, a glorious pyre of ill-gotten gains. Merry Chaosmas! He screeched at the top of his lungs, cackling every flap home, already planning for next year's assignment. This is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents either are the product of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons living or dead, events, or locales is entirely coincidental. All rights reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced in any form or by an electronic or mechanical means, including information storage and retrieval systems, without permission in writing from the publisher, except by a reviewer who may quote brief passages in a review. No generative artificial intelligence, AI, was used in the writing of this work. The author and narrator expressly prohibit any entity from using this publication for purposes of training AI technologies to generate text, audio, video, including without limitation technologies that are capable of generating works in the same style or genre as this publication. The author reserves all rights to license uses of this work for generative AI training and development of machine learning language models.